Hello, good morning. It is Tuesday, August 26, 2025. I'm Steve Saylor. This is your sometimes daily show of gaming news, accessibility news, or updates about my life. I have coffee in my tea Earl Grey hot Star Trek mug today. Yes, I know it seems sacrilegious to be able to have coffee in what's supposed to be a tea cup, but it's not. It's a coffee mug. Leave me alone. Little bit of housekeeping. If you don't know, I have a show called Dungeons and Disableds. It is a D&D actual play show where I have disabled players playing disabled characters, and we just announced our new one-shot series of one-shots. It's a 4-episode series, and it'll be the first episode will be premiering live tomorrow. It's called High Noon of the Dead. It's Old West meets zombies, or the undead, as it were. So it's going to be fun. We're using the Daggerheart rule set made by Critical Role. So we're very excited to be able to show you that. And the trailer is currently up on Dungeons and Disabled, so you can be able to search for the podcast or the YouTube channel. You can be able to find that there. All right, let us jump into the news, because this one actually is something I've been speculated about for a minute. But now we have a little bit of information about what is happening, and it's regards to the Nintendo Switch 2. This is by Chris Scullion over at VGC. They can't get the hardware. Nintendo is reportedly telling would-be Switch 2 devs to release on Switch instead. Uh-oh. In the latest edition of Digital Foundry's DF Direct Weekly podcast, host John Linneman and Oliver McKenzie reported that they had been told by numerous developers that they were still unable to get a hold of a development kit to make Switch 2 games. According to Linneman, some developers were instead being told to make games for the original Switch for now, instead of specifically working on Switch 2 only titles. There's been a lot of talk about this lately, that Nintendo seems to be almost discouraging Switch 2 development to some degree, he said. I've spoken with plenty of developers where they were told that their game, they should just ship it on Switch 1 and rely on backwards compatibility. There's a lot of developers that are unable to get Switch 2 dev kits. We talked to a lot of devs at Gamescom this year, and so many of them said the same things. They want to ship on Switch 2. They would love to do a Switch 2 versions. They can't get the hardware. It's really difficult right now. McKenzie noted that Nintendo's decision to send development kits to some studios but not others didn't appear to always make sense in his opinion, citing indie title Chillin' by the Fire, which was published by Oink Games and makes use of the Switch 2 camera as one of the more unusual examples of a smaller studio being able to get a kit ahead of more established developers. I think they should get more dev kits out there, but I don't really know what Nintendo's mindset was with these sets of decisions, McKenzie said. So I don't really understand the strategy, because you said even now developers are struggling to get systems. And I know that some months ago, when we were hearing things through the grapevine and talking to people, there were some weird exclusions with some big developers struggling to get kits for games. And there were some kind of weird inclusions as well. Some indies were included, which is nice to see. But there's that Campfire game, the Campfire game, and they're getting kits. And some big developers, on the other hand, who develop AAA stuff, aren't necessarily in the pipeline there for kits. The pair concluded that Nintendo's alleged advice of releasing games on Switch and relying on backwards compatibility isn't necessarily useful for games that push the original hardware to its limits. For starters, given the Switch's output resolution is 1080p when docked and 720p in handheld, Switch 2's output of 4K docked and 1080p in handheld means a less sharp image before taking game performance into account. Considering the sales volume of Switch 2, it's not like developers would be in a position where they don't want to support the new hardware, McKenzie said. I think broadly speaking, developers do want to support the new hardware. But the thing that's really stuck to me too is, at this point, we've seen very few proper Switch 2 editions post-launch. I don't think we've seen any hardly at all, really, from third-party developers in particular. Obviously, we saw No Man's Sky, I think one or two other games in the mix there, but really, it's been a slow trickle of titles earning that Switch 2 edition badge. So yeah, I really want to see more movement on that front. I hope it's a temporary thing. I hope that in a year or two, we're looking back and we're like, that was a really weird decision, but it was fixed in time. I hope that's where we're looking at in a little while. So I read that full article, but I definitely would still recommend giving it a click through the link in the description down below. But let's talk about this. Why is it that Nintendo can't seem to get dev kits out there? And what is the decisions behind giving some studios dev kits and some not? I have a very specific theory that I think could be the case as to why this is. First off, Nintendo doesn't really produce anything in-house. They do have manufacturer warehouses to be able to or factories to be able to make their hardware, and with everything that's been happening with tariffs and everything, Nintendo had to move their entire production pipeline from one country to another. I believe it was from China to Taiwan, or no, was it Taiwan or Singapore? I forget the actual country they moved it to. They moved it from and to, but they did have to move countries where they're manufacturing the Switch, or at least the Nintendo Switch hardware, and that includes the Switch 2. And that was due to the last Trump administration, where there was tariffs on China. And so they had to be able to move the manufacturing. Now, you got to remember, manufacturing does not get moved overnight. It takes several years in order to be able to make that happen. And because the last the tariffs basically was potential, I guess, was overturned in the Biden administration, which was during 2020 and 2024. It makes sense that basically that they were able to finally able to lock in a manufacturing company, and so that it took that amount of time in order to be able to get that them up and running for that. And I believe that is probably also why their manufacturing for dev kits has also slowed. Because they've had to move manufacturers or factories from one country to another, and that takes a lot of time. It definitely has an impact. Do I think that then potentially they would have made everything in house? Maybe. It is still possible. It is Japan. It is Nintendo. They do have a lot of resources in order to be able to create their own dev kits, but whether or not they manufacture them, I don't in house. I don't know. So I believe that because of the manufacturing costs, and also even with all the tariffs that are happening right now, they have to make decisions as far as where to be able to make the hardware. I do have a theory that I think that is the reason why we're seeing less dev kits being produced. Because that's the thing. I think Nintendo wants these dev kits out there. I don't think that they're holding anything back per se, because they want to be able to get games made for the Switch 2. They want to be able to get people on the Switch 2 platform, because it means that they can be able to create more games and move people off the Switch 1 platform, so they can be so they don't have to support both, because that is also a cost to development, is making games that are compatible for both Switch 1 and Switch 2, even though Switch 2 has backwards compatibility. And then as far as like studios getting some dev kits and some some not others, you have to remember kind of where, like, what sort of a state a studio is at. An indie studio may only need like a couple of, or even only just one Switch 2 dev kit. Okay, they only maybe could afford because you got to remember the studios, they pay for these. They don't just sort of get them from Nintendo and then that's that. They do pay for these dev kits, and oftentimes these dev kits are like they're super secretive, so there's not a lot that's available, and so they probably they only had maybe one to a couple of dev kits that they could be able to send out. And then when you talk to a AAA side, you're going to need more dev kits in order to be able to do more testing, because you have you can't just, like, a bottleneck of only having one Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit is very difficult in regards to it holds up production, and it is literally a bottleneck. So oftentimes AAAs will request multiple, if not a lot, of dev kits. So my theory as to why some indie titles are getting them and some some indie studios are getting some and some AAA studios are not, is probably because the indies, they only need a couple, so they can just get a bunch. But if in order to be able to fulfill an order for AAA where they need more, they probably don't have them all, and so they basically are just they're holding back on making sure they can be able to get them in time. What you may ask yourself, Steve, what about, like, why can't they just send a few at a time and then just basically get it? Yeah, that is a possibility. I don't know why they're doing that, or why they're not doing that, or why like that it could potentially be still a hold up, or actually help in that AAA in that regard. But that's my kind of guess, is that they they probably haven't been able to ship the entire order for a AAA studio in order to be able to get a Switch 2, as many Switch 2 dev kits as they need. Those are my two theories, just given the context of the industry right now, and also given context of how sort of dev kits are developed. Because again, dev kits are given by the manufacturer of the console. They're not just sort of like you can just buy that off of Amazon and just there you go, you have a dev kit. They have to come from the company itself. And my guess, because of the fact that Switch 2 was originally delayed because of they wanted to be able to get more hardware out there for launch, which they did, and they were successful in that. But I do think that like dev kits, that also could be the reason why we're not seeing as many Switch 2 games out at the moment. But again, is because they're not getting as much dev kits. I even heard firsthand of a studio not getting the Switch 2 dev kit. It's Digital Extremes. I've heard that from when I was there at TennoCon. They don't have a Switch 2 dev kit as of, or at least as of for July, whatever date it was. So I don't know if they've had that since then, but. Yeah, they're not getting dev kits either. So that's what my two theories. I could be 100% wrong on that. I'm just thinking of the greater context of how the industry is at the moment, how manufacturing these devices are difficult, and then tariffs also as well. That also holds up where they need to make moves in order to be able to make them profitable, because I'm sure they don't want to be able to increase the cost of the hardware. I think that's the last thing they probably want to be able to do, because they don't want to be able to to have an added expense that is now forced onto their consumer, because no one likes increasing prices. I mean, unless you're sort of profit greedy, then yes, they'll increase the price as much as they want. But given Nintendo is very player focused, my guess is they probably have not wanted to be able to increase the cost of the hardware for the consumer. So they're trying to find ways to be able to make the manufacturing cheaper so that they don't have to basically, at least if they have to increase the cost, it's not going to be by much. So given all of those concerns, that's where kind of like my theory comes from. Is it true? Have I heard anything about this? No. But it is my good, again, giving greater context to the industry. I think that could potentially be the reason. Or it could just be that Nintendo's doing really weird stuff right now, and they don't know who to give the dev kits to. I don't know. That's the thing with Nintendo. Nintendo gonna Nintendo. Because right now there's also rumors of a big Switch 2 Direct in September. Who knows if that's gonna happen? I've actually speculated that probably could happen. Because a lot of people are saying, oh, there's still Metroid Prime 4 release date to be able to be announced. Yes, I agree with that. But we don't know what Nintendo's doing. Nintendo is having a very weird launch year for the Switch 2. Then I'm assuming that it is not intentional as to what they've wanted this to be. My guess is that a lot of their plans for Switch 2 definitely did not involve a lot of what's been happening. I think they've kind of stumbled a little bit this year in terms of launch, and so they're trying to be able to keep up. So again, I think greater context in the industry. I think that could be this could be what's going on. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Next up, we got a story from IGN. If I can be able to get the load here. Here we go. It's by Wesley and Poole. Ninja Gaiden 4 developers assure newcomers that the tools are available to train themselves to get better at the game. Now, this may sound like that this could be like, oh, they're giving you all the tools to get good, but it was this headline that kind of intrigued me, and maybe there could potentially be some accessibility information kind of given from this. So let's go in the article. You've heard what we think of Ninja Gaiden 4 from an expert point of view, but actually, I don't know because I didn't actually watch the Ninja Gaiden 4 footage from IGN. But what if you've never played a Ninja Gaiden game before? Will this latest entry in the notoriously difficult action series offer newcomers something they can get to grips with? Will the story make sense if you don't know Ryu Hayabusa's from Yuri Komo's? That was my angle of attack going into my Gamescom 2025 session with Team Ninja's Masakuso Hirayama and Platinum Games Yuji Nakao. co-directors on this eye-catching new production from Xbox Game Studios. As Nikao are expertly dispatched a boss on a big screen overlooking our behind-closed-doors presentation, I couldn't help but marvel at the slick, fast-paced ninja action I was seeing. But I also felt intimidated. I'm no stranger to action games. I love Capcom's Devil May Cry series, for example, but I know Ninja Gaiden operates on a whole other level. I also know that Microsoft, which is publishing Ninja Gaiden 4, hopes that the latest entry appeals not to just hardcore fans of the franchise, but to the wider action game fan base. That it will essentially convince the likes of me to give it a shot. And so my line of questioning is probably a little different compared to what you've already seen from the illustrious Ninja Gaiden experts IGN has on staff. Read on. Okay, so this is basically the interview. I'm a newcomer to the series. This is from IGN. For people who have never played a Ninja Gaiden game before, but have perhaps heard about it by reputation as a very difficult action game, will there be able to get some enjoyment out of this, or is there very much aimed at people who are veterans of the series who know how to play? Hariyama says, so with Ninja Gaiden 4, first and foremost, we wanted to stay true to the tradition of intense combat. But with that said, it has been quite a while since the last mainline Ninja Gaiden came out, and we also want to make sure that a wider audience can approach our game and enjoy it. So to that end, we're prepared not only difficulty options, but others for those not but other features for those new players. In terms of difficulty settings, there is a mode called Hero Mode. So when you choose Hero Mode, it'll automatically enable a number of assists. So these assists include Auto Guard, Auto Dodge, and another assist that allow you to perform more complicated moves more easily. And these individual assists, once you select Hero Mode, you're not stuck with the assist. You can actually go into the menu at any time and toggle them on and off individually. See, this right here, chat, is something that I am very excited about. I love it when Asian developers embrace accessibility, but not necessarily they're on the right track. They're on the right path to basically doing true accessibility for disabled players. Because these assist modes essentially are taking elements of what think of it this way, okay? So the ability to be able to customize a difficulty, there could be other games that have potentially have done this, and I would be willing to bet there probably has been, but the one that sort of popularized the being able to customize your own difficulty level or difficulty mode, it was from The Last of Us Part 2. You can be able to customize it where you can basically select what type of stealth you want, what type of enemy damage you want, and so on and so forth. Back in 2020, that really was not a huge thing. Yes, you can be able to customize a few things here and there, but not necessarily to a larger degree. So, but you can be able to adjust them at any given time is also something that was, again, these were the things that were designed initially for accessibility. But what I love is that, again, this is why we say accessibility is for everyone. And good design is just accessible design. This is what I love to be able to see from a Asian studio. They take these ideas and they think, yeah, this is actually a pretty good idea. So on the surface, it's not necessarily accessibility, but it is something that definitely has accessibility has benefited, that other developers are like, yeah, actually, this is a good idea. So the fact that you can be able to have difficulty options, which is probably not has been done in the Ninja Gaiden series before, but they're going to have hero mode where you can be able to have auto guard, auto dodge, and an assist that allows you to perform more complicated action moves more easily, and that they are adjustable. Like, you could actually go into the menu at any time and toggle them on and off individually. That is incredible. I think that's awesome. That means that for me, who has never played a Ninja Gaiden game before, but I was intimidated by the difficulty options or the difficulty, the intense difficulty, difficult action. I want to play this because of stuff like this. This is why accessibility is important, because now there is an ability for like, yes, does it sound like I'm just advocating for easy mode? In an essence, yeah, but if this is basically the kind of accessibility we're going to get in the game, I'll gladly take it. Easy mode is part of accessibility. It's not all accessibility. We'll see how well actually that will be, like how this will help, especially for multiple disabilities, but it's a good start. It's definitely a great start. So let's continue on with what they're saying. So if you start out in hero mode and then you feel like, oh, I want to start dodging manually now instead of having automatic dodge, you can go to the menu and toggle it off and see how you fare. But not only that, the difficulty settings themselves in your first playthrough, you can freely change between hero mode, normal mode, and hard mode. See, again, that's huge. You not only adjust the individual components of a difficulty, but you can be able to go in and change from hero, normal, and hard mode. Love that. So, for example, you start your game on hero mode with all the assists. After you beat the first chapter, you turn off the assists, and then after you beat the next chapter, you feel you've developed as a player and it's getting too easy. You can go to the menu, change to normal, and then after that, if you feel like you need more of a challenge, you can go back and change it to hard. And then you can adjust it on the fly, so you can really curate your combat experience based on your progression as a player. This is what I'm talking about. That's why I love Street Fighter 6 so much, is because they give you a progression of, as you get better with the controls, as you get better as a player and able to find ways to be able to adjust based on your own comfort level, especially with your disability. Street Fighter 6, you start off with dynamic. Basically, it kind of has similar things. It has an auto sort of assist for being able to fight in that game with minimal button presses. Yes, that's immediately accessibility right there, because it means that players who have limited motor functions or have limited eye-hand coordination can be able to jump in right away and be able to at least feel like that they can be able to play maybe their friends. And if they feel like, yeah, you know what, maybe dynamic is getting a little bit too easy, I want to try maybe moving up, you can go to modern controls, where it's a little bit more complicated, a few more buttons to be able to do, but it still allows a player to be able to test it out, try it out for themselves, and then kind of get better. Because then at that point, also modern controls is illegal in Street Fighter 6 tournaments. So you could definitely see a lot more disabled players being able to play in these tournaments because of stuff like this. So the fact that Ninja Gaiden is saying, hey, we'll give you all the tools and you can add or subtract as much as you want throughout any time you want. And if you want to be able to do it where you're progressively getting better based off of, like, you start off with hero mode with all the assists on, and then you slowly kind of like maybe sort of turn off certain things or move the difficulty slider forward. That's great. That's awesome. That's what customization of accessibility is all about. Like, being able to customize to the game like this means that because human variance always is an effect. That's why difficulty modes technically don't really difficulty doesn't really exist, because it is still based on the player and all the uniqueness of human variance. A game is easy for some is not hard, is extremely hard for another, and vice versa. So having the ability to be able to customize your experience to your comfort level means that you're thinking about the spectrum of human variance, and inevitably you're jumping into the variance of the spectrum of disability too. This is why accessibility is for everyone. That's why we say it. For newcomers who may feel like this game might be too difficult for them, I want to assure them that the tools are available for them to train themselves, allowing them to progress as a player, enjoy that core intensity of the combat, while also providing the tools to allow them to progress through the game. And then it goes back to IGN. And for newcomers who aren't familiar with Ninja Gaiden but are perhaps familiar with the action game genre, what sets Ninja Gaiden apart? What are its signature mechanics that other games in the genre perhaps don't have? Ninja Gaiden is a series that has been developed. This is Nakao. Ninja Gaiden is a series that has been developed by Team Ninja up until now. One of the main characteristics that sets apart Ninja Gaiden from other action games is just that feeling you get when you're gripping the controller and the sense of precision and responsiveness. Ninja Gaiden has an intricate feeling of control, but at the same time, it's elegant and precise, and that's what really sets it apart. And since this is a collaborative effort, it's not just Team Ninja, it's Platinum Games that's developing the game. Platinum Games has injected their own flavor to Ninja Gaiden 4, and that's best represented in the Blood Raven form, which is the new main system in Ninja Gaiden 4, where Yukomo can unleash these over-the-top, really expressive attacks. Ninja Gaiden 4 fuses that over-the-top expression with that elegant precision of a Ninja Gaiden. And then I will skip ahead with regards to the story. It's about mainline game. Talking about collaboration with Platinum Games. They're talking about the protagonists. And that's kind of it. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, actually, wait. I love your new favorite mechanic we're not seeing in a Ninja Gaiden game before. Oh, they're talking about basically the Blood Raven. Okay. Oh wait, they have something here. Nikau, in addition to the Blood Raven form, there's also the base form. Within the base form, I feel like we've been given it, been able to evolve Ninja Gaiden in terms of the new type of techniques that are available. Ninja Gaiden 4 introduces just guards and just dodges. In Ninja Gaiden, the dodging move is called the reverse wind. In Ninja Gaiden 4, you can actually do a just dodge reverse wind. And this really opens up the variety of possibilities of Ninja Gaiden's combat and serves to continue to evolve that high speed back and forth between offense and defense that really makes Ninja Gaiden distinct. Okay. Cool. I love that. Okay. I love, and again, this is what's amazing about this. There could still be accessibility in Ninja Gaiden 4 that we don't know about. They did partner up with Xbox. There is a culture of accessibility within Xbox. I don't know how far that influence has gone because it is Platinum Games and it is Team Ninja. However, they are on the right path. Could there be more accessibility settings in the game? Potentially, but they are still on the right path. They may not necessarily call these accessibility options or options that are designed for disabled players. It is definitely for newcomers. However, this will benefit disabled players as well. Will this be a perfect, fully accessible game for most players? I don't know. We haven't got I haven't got my hands on it yet, and I don't think any other disabled creator has gotten their hands on it yet. But it is something that I think that I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for, and I'm going to try to see maybe I can get myself a code for, because now knowing that's good, what's going to be there, I want to give it a try. That's all there is to it. It basically, you add a little bit of accessibility that potentially could help me and benefit me. Now, as someone who's never played a Ninja Gaiden game before, this article is essentially written for me in that sense. It's like, okay, that's what I can get out of it. That's what I could. I feel like I could be more confident going into this game, and it may still be like a little too difficult for me. I don't know. Or I could keep the entire play in hero mode the entire game, and that could be enough. That's all enough. That's it. No one's gonna make fun. No one should make fun of me for doing that, because that's how the game intended. Oh, the game's supposed to be difficult. That's not how the developers intended. Then why did they include that in there? Why did they add difficulty modes? Why did they add those assists? Obviously, that's what you're saying is false, because that is how they intended it. They made it as part of the game. So, anyway, well, I would love to be able to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comment section down below. Yeah, I'm excited for this. This is gonna be great. I love this, and I can't wait to be able to play it. And it comes out October, I think. So yeah, this is great. All right. That's gonna be it for me. Take care. Hope we have yourself a great day. Make sure to remember tomorrow, the new episode, or the first episode of the brand new one shot for Dungeons Disabled will be go up on our podcast and YouTube platforms. High Noon of the Dead. It is a Daggerheart adventure. I hope you'll be able to check it out. Yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Take care. Have a great one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.